Hey guys, Phobia again. Today I'm coming out with a Necro slash Venthyr Covenant guide. What I feel are the best compositions, what I feel are the pros and cons per Covenant, since Necro and Venthyr are both prevalent in the meta. They just have their different uses, and some comps to do good in, some comps to do bad in. I'm also going to do like what counter comps go to them also, like what, for instance, a Necro Shadow Priest would be bad against compared to what a Necro Shadow Priest would be good against, and then Venthyr, same thing. Again, this is just my opinion on this. I have a Necro Shadow Priest I've been playing on my alt that I've pushed about 2400 with, and then I have my main right here, EJR, that you guys all know. I'm currently 2706 on him, so I have a decent understanding right now of the ladder. We push pretty high. Um, I have been slacking a little bit. I didn't do my Road to Glad video, but I will be doing a Road to Rank 1 video because that's what we're currently trying to push. And yeah, so if you guys have any questions, let me know. Comments down below. And you guys can follow me at twitch.tv/aphobiagaming. And here we go. All right, so first off, we're going to go ahead and start with Venthyr. So Venthyr, some of the pros I would say are they are very offensive with their passive tree. So when you go Nausea the Mistblade, you have haste procs, you have your versatility procs, you have your Door of Shadows to get offensive and defensive, which also brings more mobility to it. You have big kill pressure through mind games. So a good thing you can do with mind games also with shackles being so prevalent in the meta is you can mind game somebody for the initial burst damage, and if the healer dispels, you then send a shackle or two, and then on the next dispel you send the third shackle, and you can actually clean up games that way just because you get the pressure you want from mind games anyways from the fact that you're getting the big burst out of it. And then with hybrid classes, they can't heal, so there might have to be a dispel used in there, and then you just throw the shackles out of there. A lot of good healers would generally wait for the shackles to dispel, but sometimes they don't have a choice if you're using mind games and they're already low, like an execute, and they're forced to do something anyways because their hybrid needs to help. Um, Another thing about Venthyr is it counters its Necro counterpart. You just dispel the disease that the Necro Shadow Priest throws out. You shackle the mage that they summon, and you're pretty much Gucci. They can't stack any damage for the mage at that point, and the mage is CC'd, so his legendary doesn't get any big value out of it. So another good thing is it's pretty much a, I want to say a free win, but it's pretty much a free win if you're having like a mirror of the same comp when you're a Venthyr and he's a Necro. You just outdo him, you out attrition, you go the Necro Shadow Priest and you should win. So that's a big one. The cons to it is your setup is super scripted. Like they know if you're going into a void form, mind games is coming up. Like you're not using your void form without a mind games paired with it. So they know it's coming. They can either line of sight, they can CC you, they can just trade out a wall and then wait for it. If it's a Windwalker, they can just reverse it and use their magic defenses, and they can teleport, and then they're good to go and heal themselves to full. So there's some things like that that can be countered. Melee cleaves are extremely good into Venthyr Shadow Priest just because your mind games is your kill potential, and they just train you all game and stop you from getting any sustainable damage out there. Make sure that your dots are getting completely dispelled by their healer, and you're not having that big one shot ability. Obviously, if you're playing certain comps like WPS, you can set that up versus melee cleave, and you're still really good as a Shadow Priest because you can get like say a Spirit Bastion, you get away, then you can set your go up, but you need proper peels for Venthyr to be at its full value. It also relies on setups. So a lot of time you have to have a stun on the kill target, a stun on the healer, a silence, a fear, a cap totem, a hex, whatever you are playing, because you need that setup and triple cross CC a lot of the time. And it's not new player friendly. Mainly because it's since it is a setup based comp and it's very scripted, that new players will have a harder time playing Venthyr because they're going to be trained. They're trying to get that mind games out there. They might be using mind games at the wrong time. You shouldn't be using mind games if somebody's at 100% HP because you should want to be using it as a finisher. You want to use it around like 40 to 60% HP on your go to cause it to go to around 20 for death range. And then if you're playing with the warrior, they execute if you're after your death, If you're playing with a Windwalker, you death, and they can touch a touch of death. If you're playing with a Rogue, it's you can just smoke bomb and do your full go. Like it depends on what you're playing, right? And it's not really new player friendly. So I would recommend newer players to play Necro if you're trying to learn Shadow Priest. That is my personal opinion. I will also give my personal opinion that I think Venthyr is a lot better than Necro. Like Venthyr, in my opinion, is the best of the two covenants at the higher ratings. Because at the higher ratings, everybody has a counter to it. Everyone has a dispel between so many ret pallies in there, Shadow Priest, Disc Priest, Holy Priest, Windwalkers. Uh, you just have a lot of people who can stop Necro. So that's why I believe Venthyr's the better, but it's not the best for new players. So and both are completely viable. The comps I would say to run as Venthyr are RPS, really good right now, but it gets countered, in my opinion, at least against myself. Turbo, they have a lot of shutdown that you can just run at you, get a lot of cooldowns. Your Shaman will and then they can swap to your Rogue and cleave your Rogue if your Rogue's not in the healer. Which your Rogue should be in the healer in that comp, so they're not getting cleave, but they could just swap to your Rogue trying to go on the healer and just catch him behind at a bad place, get all of his cooldowns, go back to you, get all your cooldowns. Your healer's just going to go. Turbo just feels really hard. You also have Banner, Intervene, and Disarm, so it stops Rogue goes. Um, you know, you have Wind Shear, Grounding for the Shadow Priest, and then not only that, trying to go the Shaman, the Warrior can just stop anything you guys are doing at all times. They can fear you guys. Like it's just really hard, in my opinion, for RPS to go against Turbo. Cupid's a lot of the same way. With Cupid, you have Sync for the healer, so they see your go coming. A good rec can just sync his healer. Right, as you guys are about to set up a go, he can run eye for an eye if he wants to for the rogue and keep a little bit more defensive for himself. He has off heals, bops. They just have a lot in succession to stop you, and then of course you have the hunter just training down your priest. Your rogue can't get resets, and you have roar sacrifice for any big goes they think you're going to happen, especially with the one-shot builds that a lot of rogues are running. If they're necro, it's not as scary, but they still can stop a lot of your damage as assassination. When you're pop vendetta, they just fucking roar sacrifice, give whoever they're on freedom. They can make sure the rogue again doesn't get resets. Cupid just whew, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of when I play RPS running into Cupid. And then sometimes Hero Cleave, because that depends. Sometimes RPS can just kill the DH really quickly at any rating, but there are the times that DHs are really, really, really smart, and you don't get that really good go, and then you just fall behind and you can lose. So that's a 50-50. When I put sometimes, that means you have a 50-50 chance of winning or losing that comp. Warrior Priest Shaman WPS is probably your best comp as Venthyr in the current bracket. But it gets countered by Shadow Play, especially if you're playing Demo Shadow Play. Demo Shadow Play is getting a lot of traction lately, but you don't normally play Demo Shadow Play with a Venthyr Warlock. But Shadow Play in general is still really strong into certain comps right now, and that's why you see some of them at high ratings, because certain comps they can just farm and they just end up winning. So Shadow Play, I feel like just because they bring the warrior out, they out attrition you most of the time because they play with druids, and you just end up falling behind, and it's not your warrior can't stick on a target the entire time, and you end up rotting. So that's my opinion. I believe Shadow Play is just really good at WPS. God Comp, of course, everyone knows God Comp just destroys warriors, and as a Shadow Priest, you're not really helping that much with it. And then sometimes Warrior Mage Druid. That's a 50-50. Both are really freaking good in the meta. It can be Warrior Mage anything, but Warrior Mage Druid specifically, in my opinion, they're both sides have a chance to win because both sides have really good consistent goes, and the mage can flop and the priest can flop. It just depends on who gets the better setup and who reacts better. Um, God comp, we already know everyone loves God comp. Jungle, in my opinion, is a hard counter to God comp. Just everything you do, they stop everything. You can't combust. You can't do big goes with jungle. You can't CC the feral. You don't have consistent stun locks to be able to shut down the feral. You have off heals if he's necro. It's just you have so much to go through, and you can't go the hunter because he has Feign Death legendary. So you don't only have a target here, and you're on a timer, and your mage will eventually flop over. And if they really don't want to chase the mage around, they can just go to Shadow Priest and flop him over. So jungle hard counter, RMP is a hard counter in my opinion to God comp. They just can pick any target, CC the other one, and there's no stoppage because you don't have a stop No one can use defenses when they're stunned other than the Shadow Priest, and that's Dispersion. But then, like I said, the Necro you have to trinket, right? And if you're running swap and you have to trinket like a smoke bomb, and they catch you on that, you can die. So, or they duel you, depending if they're running, if he's a subtlety rogue, and if they go the mage has ice block because only can use it in when he's in a stun. So it's really, in my opinion, hard to fight RMP as God comp, just because it's really hard to kill the rogue, it's really hard to kill mage, and the priest can get resets and get a couple sips off here and there. And then of course Cupid, because anything with the BM hunter, in my opinion, counters anything with a mage or a shadow priest. So that's why I put Cupid. Same reasons as before. Windwalker Priest Shaman is something I played a lot this season. Played to about 2600 this season. So some of the comps that we couldn't beat as Windwalker Priest Shaman was Shadow Play, like almost every time we would lose to Shadow Play, especially with a demo lock. We just there's nothing we could do. We just got destroyed. There might be people out there who know how to beat that. But in my opinion, there's just nothing we could do. Every time we went in, there's a stun. If we trinket, there's a mortal coil, a fear. If we connect again, he teleports. Then we have mind control, silences on myself. Like there's a lot. TSG with an R druid. Ooh, whoops. I think I just went. There we go. TSG with an R druid. The reason why I say R druid is TSG. They run Chains of Ice. The haste reduction, I think it's called Bitter Chill or something like that, and it reduces your haste. And then if you hit a DK, right, with spell warding, it reduces your cast time by an additional 10% or 15%. I think it's 10%. So on top of already getting reduced haste, when you hit into spell warding, you take 10% reduced cast time. So essentially, your dots are not taken for anything, and you're casting like 2-second long VTs, and you don't get a lot of dots out. And anytime you get a dot out, the druid can just dispel it. They can just spam dispel as soon as you get one out. They have kick. They can then stun you. Then they can grip you. Then they can do their go. Then when you get a dot out, it gets dispelled. You get out attritioned. You have to hope that your Windwalker one shots somebody. You get cleaved if you go too hard onto the double DPS. A lot of time you have to swap to the healer. It's in my opinion one of the hardest counters for Windwalker Pre-Shaman is TSG with an R druid specifically, because the druid just goes and drinks. He has Iron Bark, he has Overgrowth, and you're just spamming Dispel, and he's spamming Dispel, and then you end up losing attrition wise or just off cooldowns. And sometimes RMP, depending on how good the matchup goes, you can just destroy an RMP by going the Rogue. And I love going Rogue because Mage just runs away, and my Windwalker has to chase, and then he gets caught out of position, he can die. So if we just go Rogue can't just stay in. We get cooldowns. But there are those times where they can just get a big amount of cooldowns in the opener on the Windwalker. Get a trinket for my healer, swap the healer and kill him. There's nothing we can do. So it's just, again, it's the 50-50 in that one, in my opinion. Shadow Play, you can play, obviously. I recommend playing if you're playing Shadow Play, just play Necro. But if you play Shadow Play specifically, you should play UA Shadow Play if you're playing Venthyr. You shouldn't play the other comps if you're playing Venthyr. You should just play UA style for the mind games on healers or on hybrids, so they can't get dispelled. If they get dispelled, you triple shackle, you win the game with another UA. They can't dispel that, and you just win. Jungle, because anything with a Shadow Priest or a Warlock, jungle kind of just counters, or a mage. But you can win jungle, but again, a lot of times you're just gonna end up losing. And then with a Venthyr Shadow Priest, turbo is a counter, because of the fact that they have Tremor Totem, they have Berserker Rage, and if they're playing double Shaman Turbo, or if they're playing Druid Turbo, if they're playing whatever, you have a chance to kill the Druid Turbo, but a lot of time they have so much pressure, the Druid just gets drinks, runs Feral Affinity, bashes the Warlock, bashes you, cyclones you, stop anything you guys can do, and they just run you guys over. And again, this is my opinion. Other Shadow Priests might think differently. This is just what I have experienced on this ladder, and these are the comps that I feel really hard into. And Hero Cleave is just disgusting right now into Shadow Priest and into Warlocks. They just have so much sustainability with the Chains of Ice. Anything that requires haste, especially dot classes, Hero Cleave just counters. So that's my opinion. Let's go ahead and move on to the Necro Shadow Priest. All right, so now we're on to Necro. So Necro, some pros to Necro. Good sustained damage. You have a lot of sustained damage through your Covenant Tree. You have easy goes every 1 minute. So what I mean by that is all your cooldowns actually are 1 minute. If you run Psyfiend, if you run Mindbender, if you run your dot from your Necro tree, and then of course if you have the Pally Command boots, you summon the Mage, all that's on a 1 minute cooldown and a 45-second cooldown. So every 1 minute, you have a consistent go with a bunch of pets. Your little Kevin out there doing his damn, and it's all instant. So you don't have to worry about casting, and you don't have to worry about people predicting it, other than obviously it being off cooldown, but they can't know it's coming because everything you're doing is instant. So once you just throw out all your damage, like, oh snap, it's coming now because it's instant. They have to react in the moment. You can set it up in the moment. And again, it's very good into melee cleaves. Unlike its counterpart, Venthyr, Necro is really good into melee cleaves. And that's why you see a lot of people running it. It's because it's great into the melee cleave meta. But again, it's not so good into hybrid metas, in my opinion. So Venthyr kind of can fight everything, while Necro excels into cleaves. So we want to hope you're always going into a cleave matchup. The cons to it, it's easy to counter with Shackle, Undead / Turn Evil for the mage you summon with your Paladin Command boots. What that does is Turn Evil, from Paladins, and then Shackle Undead from Priest. And then with so many classes having a dot dispel or disease dispel at higher ratings, Pallies, Monks, and Priest, they just easily dispel your dot. The dot has to be on a target, and that target has to be taking damage to increase the mage's damage. If you don't have a dot on the target, first you lose the big dot to begin with, and then you lose your mage stack. And then they just shackle or turn it into your pet, and you get no value out of your legendary. Games with Necro also tend to dampen, depending on what comp you're playing, but a lot of time you'll have longer matches than you will with Venthyr because you don't have that kill potential from Mind Games. Some of the comps I recommend. Assassination RPS. Assassination RPS is all about just hitting a target next to you, dotting them up, and then pick a kill target and kill them. So you just dot everybody up, people are getting low, you have a kill target, you get the cooldowns, you swap, get that cooldown, go back to the kill target, finish them off. RPS Assassination is super strong because Assassination Rogue is just ridiculously strong right now, especially with their Hemotoxin. You can just run people over at almost any rating. It all depends on what you're queuing into. There are two comps I think that are there are other comps that are good into it, but two comps that I, on my Necro Shadow Priest, have a hard time with: Cupid and TSG, especially with an R Druid. The fact of the matter is Cupid just can still stop all your goes. You still have Roar Sacrifice for the Rogue on his Vendettas. You have 2 Dispels for diseases on Cupid if they're playing with the Priest, which they should be. And that just locks you down from your Devouring Plague and from your Covenant ability because it is a disease. TSG just trains any one of you guys to the ground, and you end up losing. They can run at your healer, they can run at your rogue, they can run at you and stop your damage. And yes, you can win these comps, but a lot more likely than not, depending on how good the players you're fighting are, you should end up losing those compositions. And that's just me. Again, a lot of this is my opinion, not what is definitive. It's just my experiences and what I feel on the ladder at the ratings I'm at. FPS feels extremely strong with the Necro Feral. FPS probably, in my opinion, is the strongest comp for Necro Shadow Priest, but you could also say that with WPS, right? WPS is going to be the best in most scenarios, but I love playing with the Feral, and I feel Necro Feral with that ability, that I think it's a legendary where they put all their dots on one target and does like 40% or something more damage or whatever that is. Your dot pressure just seems so insane, and you can just kill people the entire game and actually people you wouldn't otherwise, and you have a bunch of defense with everybody having Necro shield and everyone having frictionless coding. But again, with FPS, you get countered by Shadowplay with the Resto Druid. Shadowplay with the Resto Druid, your Feral and you can't stay out long enough to kill, and if a good R Druid can just spam scare Beast, and your Feral has to consistently try to get out of form to not get CC'd, and then he can't keep damage up. I've noticed that a lot. Or not Scare Beast, sorry. Hibernate. I was thinking of a Hunter. Hibernate, and they're just consistently getting CCs out on you guys, and you're having to run a lot versus Shadowplay, and they can go to your Shaman at any time, and you don't have the biggest peels in the world other than Cyclones and instant damage from you, but if you use your instant CC and all that, then you don't have it for your goes when you do end up doing a go. And also they can get kicked, right? Feral just can get kicked on their Cyclones and stopped and mortar coiled and whatever they have to throw out there if they're playing with a UA lock. it's even worse because then you have no dispels and they can just shackle you guys and stop off healing, and it's really hard. And then The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead seems really strong into FPS because you're forced to be on a target together because of the legendary that Ferals will run, and you have to put a lot of pressure on one target on your goes. Like you can dot and mix around, but your Feral Druid is stuck to a target, so they know who you're going because most Ferals are running that legendary, I believe. And I don't know, it's just like The Walking Dead runs us over because you have all your haste is just consistently reduced if you're hitting the DK, and they're going to be running because you're both Necro. They're going to be running the Chains of Ice reduction, and it just feels really hard. Shadowplay with the demo lock again, I feel like is a comp you should run when you're playing Necro over UA or Destro. Demo just has all the stops in the world for everything. I feel like when you're playing with a Shadow Priest, I don't know what it is. I've been seeing it a lot in the ladder recently, and I don't have an answer to it. When I fight against it, right? When I play with it, we just win everything. We literally just win everything. And maybe somebody out there has an answer how to beat it. But Necro Shadow Priest with a demo lock just seems so good. Hero Cleave and Jungle are the only two that are hard, and I would say because they have sustainability. If they just run Fel Devastation and the Conduit and the build, the legendary. I'm trying to think of the DH legendary that just has a lot of self heal where they don't need to worry about running Netherwalk, and they just leech and kill and leech and heal and leech and heal the entire game. And then of course if you hit the DK, you're all running low in haste, so they have a lot of uptime on you. So Hero Cleave is a little bit harder. It still feels winnable a lot of the matches, but it definitely feels like it is the only counter you can have is Hero Cleave in jungle. Jungle, of course, is jungle. It does go into Warlocks into Shadow Priest, and they can stop a lot of your goes. And they're just tanky. They're just a tankier comp. But other than that, I don't think anything really counters you as Shadow Play with a demo lock. Now you could play any version of Shadow Play, but demo lock, I'm telling you guys, run it. God comp, same thing as last time, but you get countered by Jungle and Cupid. Same kind of win conditions, but you just have instant damage. You can hit whoever. You can also put the Frost Mage in the Necro Shadow Priest setup. Warrior Priest Shaman, same thing as the Venthyr version, but you're just hitting whoever the warrior's on. You dot, and then when the warrior says I'm going on this target, you just throw your Necro bomb at them and let your Kevin and your Mindbender and whoever you're sending on them, your mage, let them do work. Same counters as the other one. Shadowplay, God Comp, and Warrior Mage Druid. And that's Necro. All right, I'm going to move on to the talents I'm using for my Venthyr Shadow Priest and the talents I'm using for my Necro Shadow Priest and the trees I'm using. So we're going to go move on to next. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start off with my Venthyr. So I'm going to show you guys what I run, my personal opinions, and you guys can take it with a grain of salt, go from what you guys want to do or what you're comfortable with, or you can do what I do. But we're going to start off with the average talents I run. So talents, I average run always Unfurling Darkness, always Intangibility, always Misery, always Second Core, always Shadow Crash. This row right here, Damnation, I run into Melee Cleave, and then Void Torrent I run into Caster Cleave, or Melee Cleave that only has like very little kicks, like one or kick, or let's say we have a lockdown, like if we're playing WPS and we are doing like big goes on spears, sometimes I'll go Void Torrent because they can't stop it anyways if they have no range kick. So sometimes I'll go Void Torrent for that. And always Hungry and Void. Void Volley, Greater Fate, and Siphon is my basic rotation now compared to when I did my guide in the beginning of the season. This is my basic go-to now, mainly because now that I have more gear, getting kicked isn't the biggest thing in the world. So, getting my Void Eruptions off, they're gonna go off, and having Siphon's really good when you're playing lockdown comps or WPS or anything like that. And you have that lockdown, then you throw your Siphon out at the end of a CC rotation on a healer, so they have to you have a big heal, right? And it absorbs that heal. It can also be paired after a Sharpened Blade, so you can do a Sharpened Blade into a Siphon, or a Siphon into a Sharpened Blade, and or a Hemotoxin, or whatever you're playing, right? And you just have like a long, huge time where you just have all this healing reduction. So Siphon, and it just does good damage. So Siphon and Void Volley. If I'm running into a Melee Cleave where I can't get value out of Siphon, I'll just do either Driven to Madness to get more Void Volley goes, or if it's a comp that I need to MD on, then I'll run MD and Void Volley. If it's a caster cleave, I'll go Psy Fiend and improve MD. This is what I'll generally run into like God comp. I'll run this almost every time into God comp. I'll run this every time until like if there's a Boomkin on the team or an Ellie Shaman on the team. This is what I run right here, and then with Void Torrent. This is kind of like my caster setup here. A lot of the games, like I said, I'm running Psy Fiend now, and Imp MD when you need it. When you don't need it, Void Volley. If you don't get value out of Void Volley, you can run Driven to Madness, and you can run Psy Fiend. If you're really scared about getting kicked, you can run Void Origins. But I know I just said a lot there, but generally what you want to, this is kind of like what you want to run, and then you just go and change one or both talents depending on what you're fighting. The only time I run Void Shift is into RMP, and this is my RMP setup right here, guys. Right, exactly what you see right here is that I run to RMP, and I recommend you running to RMP. Imp MD for let's say you get a Mind Games on yourself or a Poly onto your healer, or let's say your warrior, your rogue, or your Windwalker or whatever really needs a Poly dispel to kill something, then or you can run that. You run an MD, and then Void Shift, just because Void Shift, you can't go wrong with Void Shift into RMP. You just can't. So this is what I recommend to RMP guys. But that being said, that's my setup for that. And on to my condies. So I'm running Nausea the Mistblade 100% of the time. Thrill Seeker's too good, like I was saying, the haste proc. You get Thrill Seeker, you get Shadow Perceptions. I still have really low conduits, guys. Don't make fun of me. Even on my main. Shadow Perceptions, Clear Mind, Condensed Atmosphere, Dissonant Echoes, Haunting Aberrations, Nimble Steps, Light's Inspiration, and Fatal Flaw. This right here, paired with this, is why Venthyr is so good, because you have like 20 seconds of burst. You have the 10 seconds of Euphoria, and then when Euphoria ends, you get another 10 seconds of 20% versatility. More survivability, more damage. So this is like 20. Once this procs, you have like 20 seconds of go. A thing I would say is you don't have to run Haunting Operations. You can swap that out, in my opinion, for Rabid Shadows if you have a decent one. Just so when your big go with your Shadow Fiends up, you do a lot of damage in that one go. And you don't generally get more than 2 goes in an arena. So depending on how you play, obviously, as a Venthyr. So Rabid Shadow gets a lot of value there. But if you just want to stick with Haunting Operations, just for the consistency, you can. There's not either or, it doesn't matter. And these are the condies I run on my Venthyr Shadow Priest. My legendary I run, you guys should know by now from last season, I always run Measure Contemplation. Always run it. The only time I swap out of it is for this legendary here called the Vault of Heavens. I use this versus Turbo and versus Ret War. The reason that is we deny their goes so much that we get our goes up faster, and they don't have enough uptime to kill me if they're on me, right? Especially on like Blade's Edge Arena, we bait them down below. They use cooldowns. They use spear. Your warrior spears their spear, and then you fade out of it. They get out of the spear. You grip up to the top of Blade's Edge, and they're just like, "Whoa, what are we gonna do?" And then they catch up to you. You can door shadows. They catch up to you again. You do the same thing again. You jump back up to them with the Vault of Heaven, because what Vault of Heaven does is it gives you 2 charges of life grip, but instead of gripping the target, you grip to them. So let me show you an example of that. So I'll put the grip Lego on, right? And then I grip to like the nearest target, right? Whoever I have it over. Apparently I can't grip that guy. His PvP word, I think, off. So
it's too far away.
It says I'm out of range, but it's not actually letting me grip to them. So I guess that one guy just has war mode on or off or something. There, I guess it's just that guy right there. Well, anyways, that's why I the grip legendary is so good. Especially guys, like I said, into turbo, into like Ret War. It's where they don't have like a lockdown where you can't go anywhere. That's really good. But every other game, I don't even run Cephus anymore. Pretty much every game, I am running Measure Contemplation on this character, all the way up to, like I said, 2700. It's too good. The healing is ridiculous. If you guys don't know what it does, every 15 seconds you get a 50% increased heal up to 4 times. I've done 40, 50k crit heals in arena where my healer almost dies and he has nothing left, and I pretty much lay on hands him. And then every 15 to 30 seconds after that, I just heal just to keep us topped off, and it saves us the mana. It saves on cooldowns. I can't tell you any scenario where I think Cephus works in this meta. Some people will say run Cephus. I don't see a single scenario where Cephus is better than this. I'm sorry to people out there, but you get a lay on hands or you get Cephus. 3% damage. Like, I'll take my heal. You guys all know from last season, I ran it since first week of last season. I'm a advocator of it. I think I'm the only high rate Shadow Priest who did use it last season. I think some people use it this season, but that's my opinion. You should run it. You should always have one, all you guys, and you can't beat it in twos. It's the best twos you can get. Twos legendary you can get as a Venthyr. There we go. Those 2 legendaries, guys. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and move on to my Necro Shadow Priest. All right, so this is my Necro Shadow Priest. He's a Tauren just because I love Tauren Shadow Priest, and War Stomp actually is pretty cool when you're playing with Necro. You can like War Stomp into a Void Eruption, or you get a little bit more health for your Fleshcraft. I just thought it's fun. I would recommend still going Goblin, but I think it's fun. So this is my Necro Shadow Priest, and the talents I'm running on him are essentially the same, except I run Mindbender instead of Damnation or Void Torrent. You can change this into comps that you just can't cast in at all, and you just don't see yourself getting very much consistent damage out. So you can go Damnation instead. But I like going Mindbender every 1 minute for my goes. Same thing here. Siphon, Greater Fate, and Void Volley. Same situation. You change out of these on the same situations you would Venthyr. The conduits that I am using on this character, I am doing Plague Divisor Merilith for the Volatile Solvent because I get that mastery. I get the Festering Transfusion Conduit. I have low conduits in this guy also. I know I'm slacking. Increase my damage. Condense Atmosphere. Frictionless Coating. Dissonant Echoes. Lights Inspiration. Don't look at that. I know it's really low. Ultimate Form. Rapid Shadows on this character for my Mindbender every 1 minute. Just makes my Mindbender do more damage every 1 minute. Low conduit also. I do Undulting Maneuvers while above 80%. 5% damage is taken as absorbed and spread out. Clear Mind down here, and then Kevin, the big boy Kevin. These are the conduits I'm running that I would recommend. Obviously, get better versions than I have, guys. I'm just very, very slacking in the grinding department on my characters. I have a lot of alts. I just made a BM Hunter. So like I sometimes I get slackful. But if you guys are grinding it out, again, I say recommend Necro if you're just learning Shadow Priest. Shadow Priest is a very high skill cap class. It takes a lot of dedication to learn the compositions, positioning, and all that. So I would say go Necro if you're new. If you are not new to Shadow Priest, go Venthyr. Or if you're just playing comps that benefits you as Necro, go Necro. There's not a wrong answer. It's just I told you guys I feel Ventyr's better, but they're both great. And this, like I said, this is what I'm running on my Necro. Some of the things I do pre-game when I first join an arena, I instantly do certain things in the game. So I instantly will use my Desperate Prayer, and I will Fleshcraft, just for a way bigger Fleshcraft, right? So my Fleshcraft right now is 32,000 on this character, instead of 27. I think it is without me doing that. And by the time I actually need my Desperate Prayer, it'll come back up, and then my Fleshcraft come back up later then into the match also. It'll be like 30 seconds. I'll not have DP, but it's fine. I get this big fleshy shield. I love pairing those together. That's just something I like to do. And yeah, kind of the goes that you do. Like I said, you throw your damage out, and you do your goes. You summon your guys right here. You summon your little Kevin and your mage, and you want to make sure that they're not in CC. So if they're getting it CC'd, you can MD them out and stuff. But you want to let these guys do their damage as much as they can. But yeah, this is the build that I run. So again, like I said, change out the same way you would versus comps, and you guys will have a good time with it. But that's what I do on my Necro, and like I said, I already went over the comps. Just have fun with it. Let me know what you guys thought about all this. If I missed anything, let me know. I will say there's only one legendary you can run with Necro. You have to run Pallid Command. It's what summons your Rattling Mage. So you do have to run this. So there's no options outside of that. But yeah, so just let me know what you guys think. Follow me at Twitch if you guys want to. And leave comments below for another video you guys would like maybe. And just tell me your thoughts if I did a good job. All right, guys. Bye-bye.